Much is still uncertain about the whereabouts of Ricciardo for next season. Ever since the big announcement at the end of August, rumors have spread as to what his next steps are. Daniel is being linked to Alpine, Haas, Williams, a test drive seat at Mercedes, and even IndyCar. The 33-year-old Australian has an enormous fan base and is a much-liked person in the F1 paddock. Last week, Hamilton revealed that he finds Ricciardo too talented to not drive in F1. To RacingNews365.com, he said, "I think that he should keep racing. He has too much talent and has deserved the right to stay in F1 just like us. It would be great to have him be part of Mercedes, but I don't think it would be the best for him to stay on the sidelines. If I was his manager, he would be racing." That the honey badger brings smiles to many people's faces is an understatement, but there is also criticism, and many wonder if he still has it in him to perform well in F1. Jacques Villeneuve, ex-F1 world champion, heavily criticized Ricciardo at F1 TV. Daniel has had 4 bad years, 2 at Renault, now Alpine, and more recently at McLaren. Almost half of his career he performed poorly, and that after years of experience. Ricciardo himself stated that he still very much enjoys F1 and that he's looking for a competitive seat. The only competitive seat that is left is at Alpine, but his chances are getting smaller every day as it becomes more and more clear that Alpine has put their focus on Pierre Gasly. The Australian driver slowly starts to accept his fate in a recent interview. "I have certainly accepted if I am not to be on the grid next year. I'm okay with that." But there is still hope. Gasly can only move to Alpine if Colton Herta gets his super license and replaces him at AlphaTauri. So far, the FIA doesn't bend the rules to give the American driver a super license. Alpine is aware of the complicated situation concerning Gasly and is looking for a plan D. RacingNews365.com revealed that Alpine is planning a secret test at the Hungaroring in the days prior to the Singapore Grand Prix. They have invited 4 drivers to drive with the 2021 Alpine A521. So who are these drivers? Why did Alpine invite these drivers? Why is this such bad news for Ricciardo? And how does Daniel feel about it? Let's find out. Alpine is intertwined in a severe battle with McLaren for P4 at the Constructors' Championship. They are currently 18 points ahead of McLaren, and so far things look good for the French team. Even more impressive is the almost 50-50 split between the drivers to score points. Whereas Ocon scored 66 points, Alonso sits at 59. This is completely different at McLaren, where Norris scored 82% of the points, and Ricciardo the remaining 18%. The big point deficit of Ricciardo led McLaren to replace him by Piastri, who was the alleged replacement driver for Alonso at Alpine. The 2022 season is a great example of why it is so important to have 2 well-performing drivers in your team. Alpine's point lead over McLaren is mainly due to a poor-performing Ricciardo. Because of the importance of the driver's choice, Alpine doesn't want to take any guesses and take their time choosing a replacement driver. So what is the purpose of the Alpine test? The test at the Hungaroring is part of the ongoing in-season program, which was originally meant for Piastri. Now that the Australian driver is out of the picture due to his move to McLaren, Alpine wants to use this test to compare and examine other options. So, who all is invited for these tests? Insiders shared that Nick De Vries, Jack Doohan, Colton Herta, and Mick Schumacher are invited to drive the 2021 Alpine car. Initially, Nico Hülkenberg was also mentioned to be part of the tests, but close sources indicated that this isn't true. Nick De Vries has been a hot topic after he did a phenomenal job at the Italian Grand Prix by finishing 9th in his debut race. Even more impressive is that he did so in a Williams. He got the Driver of the Day title as well as lots of praise from many experts. Toto Wolff even mentioned that Niki Lauda would have taken his hat off for Nick's performance and that De Vries deserves to get a chance in F1 next year. Williams fans even went as far to state that the team should replace Latifi by the Dutch driver as of the next race. But when the Dutchman was asked about his future at Williams, he said, "I really don't know what will happen. F1 is very volatile and I have no control over it." However, John Capito, team boss of Williams, said that it is up to De Vries to decide about his F1 future, indicating that there are more options for the Dutchman. Alpine has certainly seen the achievements of the 27-year-old and wants to do a test drive to see whether he is really that good. Jack Doohan, on the other hand, is part of the Alpine Junior Academy and drives F2. Although he had fluctuating results this season, Doohan did show he possesses great talent and racecraft. Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi said to Motorsport.com, We need a driver who can score many points right from the beginning. That automatically brings us to more experienced drivers, but that person should also be capable of growing together. We want to make the right choice and are in no rush. Jack is fast, but also matured a lot. I enjoy our conversations, and he definitely made a step forward this season. So what about the two other drivers? Motorsport.com states that Alpine tries to help Red Bull by offering Herta a test drive in the hope to convince the FIA to make an exception for the American driver. If the American driver is free to race in F1, it would clear the path for Alpine to sign on Gasly. In this case, Colton is no serious option for Alpine, but an attempt of the French team to eventually get to their desired driver. Lastly, Schumacher also gets a chance with the 2021 car. Gunther Steiner, team boss of Haas, has criticized Mick in the past and is not sure whether they even want to extend the German driver's contract. However, the name Schumacher does carry far in F1 and can be a great marketing tool for the French team. Mick has shown that he is improving and starts to regularly beat his teammate Magnussen during the race. Alpine want to give Mick a fair chance to prove himself in a more competitive car, although it is last year's car. But what does this all mean for Ricciardo? Alpine has plenty of data available of Ricciardo as he drove for the French team during the 2019 and 2020 season. Daniel outperformed his teammate in both seasons. Safnauer already mentioned that Ricciardo was on his list, but insiders recently revealed that there are some serious doubts about the Honey Badger. The biggest doubt is whether Daniel still has it in him to lead a team forward. This is further fueled by Villeneuve's opinion about the situation. Alpine has no reason to take him, especially when he has driven there before. It seems that the modern cars just don't seem to suit his driving style. He was impressive at Red Bull. He showed amazing overtaking maneuvers. He was ahead of Max at the beginning, but in the end, Max started to get a handle on him. Then he switched. After the switch, something seems to have happened that he never managed to get a handle on. He never recovered from that. But how does Daniel feel about the whole situation? In an interview with RacingNews365.com, he talked openly about his current situation. I've accepted that I'm not going to do everything, or my management team is not going to do everything just to put me on the grid if it's not right, or if it doesn't make sense. If I am on the grid, I want to know that it's a place that I can enjoy and feel that I can thrive in, so I don't want to just jump into a car for the sake of it. Days like this are certainly pretty frustrating, but I think give it 24 or 48 hours and I'll, let's say, get over it and try to understand what's best for next year. I don't mean it in an overconfident or cocky way, but if it's not meant to be, then I'm totally okay with that. I'm not going to be too proud. We certainly haven't given up on a race drive for 2023, but that's kind of where my head's at the moment. As Alpine seems to tend further and further away from Daniel, the chances that we will see the Honey Badger on the grid next year also tend to slim. Like he said in his recent interview, he doesn't want to just take any available F1 seat if it doesn't feel right. Do you think Ricciardo should take any chance he can get to drive F1 next year, or do you agree that he should only accept an offer from a competitive team? Let me know in the comments section below.